I'm here in Medjugorje and I'm at Hotel Grace on a terrace on a cold winter day, you know? And I met you just outside. Where are you from?
I'm from the United States of America.
And what's your name?
My name's Caroline.
When did you hear the first time, Caroline, about Medjugorje, and what did you think at the time?
So I'm a convert to the Catholic faith.
Oh, wow.
I converted about...
I have to listen to that story.
Oh, right,
yeah?
yes. So I converted about 34 years ago.
Why?
I married a man who was a cradle Catholic. And
Maybe take this close to you.
Okay,
That's better, yeah?
Okay, I married
Hold
a
it, maybe.
gentleman that was a cradle Catholic.
Yeah.
And I never thought anything of it.
Yeah.
And then when we had our kid, our first son,
Yeah.
we were in England then. We were living in England, in London then. And I wanted him to go to a good school. And the only good schools were the Catholic schools. And I went to try and get him into the Catholic school. And they said, you have to be a Catholic. I said, okay, I'll be a Catholic. Not just be a Catholic, but you have to be known to be in Mass. The priest has to recognize you. When you put in your application, you put it in with your photograph of the family. And the priest has to look at that application and say, oh, I know this family, they come to Mass. That's how I got into the Catholic Church. So I just went to get my son into school, but guess what? The Lord had a plan. And I became Catholic, I converted. I joined a charismatic prayer group. And that's how I became a Catholic.
Wow, were you touched somehow deep inside?
Oh,
Was the
yes.
pivotal point?
Yes.
Like situation?
The pivotal point for me was attending a healing Mass by Father Peter Mary Rookie. He's passed on now, but I was living in England then. And he came to England and he had one of those healing Masses. And when they go around and they anoint you with the oil, I was laid down in the spirits. And it was just a very, very deep spiritual experience. It's very personal and very difficult to describe unless you've been through it. But I think the seeds of Medjugorje were planted in me 30-something years ago.
Why? What were the seeds?
I used to listen to I used to have videos then, BRCs then, and I used to listen to the apparitions. I used to listen to Garabandal, documentaries on Garabandal, Lourdes, Fatima. But Medjugorje just always seems to be at the forefront of my being. I don't know why. And so when I moved to the States in 1999 with my family from the UK, Medjugorje kept coming. Just anytime I pray, anytime I go anywhere, it was always Medjugorje, Medjugorje. But there was always something in the way. I could never come. I don't know why. There was always one excuse. So this year, I tried to get on a pilgrimage. The timing for the pilgrimages were always, the group pilgrim were always not right for me. So I said, you know what? I'm just going. I'm just going. And I'm here all by myself.
Wow, the first time in your life.
The first time in my life.
And how is the experience?
So I didn't come here to see a miracle or see Our Lady. If that happens, that's a bonus. I came here to be filled with the love, to empty myself, and just to pour out my heart to the Lord our God and to Our Lady. And I wanted them to fill me with love, to increase my faith, to help me grow in love and in beauty for the Holy Trinity, for Christ, for Our Lady. But what happened, I arrived on Friday, and today's Monday, right?
Yeah.
Saturday, I'm not with any tour guide or anything, so I have no clue what's going on. So the first Mass I go to is all Croatian, and I have no clue, but I sit through it and I enjoy it, and I don't know what they're saying, but that's fine, I sit through it. So the second day, I start to get more information about where the English Masses are held, and I start to just do my own little inquiries. And so Sunday, they say the English Mass is at 10 o'clock in the chapel. Don't ask me how. I went to 4 Masses on Sunday.
Wow.
I don't know how that happened. So I got up in the morning and I said, okay, Mass is at 10 o'clock. But I'm just going to get up early. No, Mass is at 12, sorry, on Sunday. English Mass at 12.
Exactly.
So I'm going to get up early and I'm just going to go and just wander around. So I go, and then the hotel I am in is just next to St. James's church. So I walk into the yard in St. James's Church and I see that, oh, the speakers are on, Mass is going on inside, but I'm outside, so I sit through that Mass. Then I go to the left and I go and look for where the English Mass is being held, but it hasn't started yet. There's already a Mass going on. So I just walk into that Mass.
Sat down.
And I sat down and I get the Eucharist and I part of that Mass. And then immediately after that Mass, the English Mass starts. And I'm like, oh, I might as well stay. So another Mass, right? And next thing I know, I also come back in the evening and I attend
Evening Mass.
Mass. And evening Mass is all Croatian, right? And I sit through that and the Rosary. So that's 4 Masses in one day. And I didn't realize it till I got home, till I got to the hotel room last night. I was like, wait a minute. I went to Mass 4 times yesterday.
And how was that? How would you describe the experience?
You know, it's very difficult to explain. What you experience here, I mean, I've listened to people that have been interviewed, and you have to be here to understand. It's almost like the peace, the love, the joy, the blessings. It comes at you in a very vivid and alive way. And I know I still have a week here. But I'm loving every day of it, and I'm finding myself this peace, this beauty. There's so much peace here, I can't explain it. It's almost like my soul has opened up and it's being caressed by the Holy Spirit. My body, my life, my soul, my spirit is being enveloped by the love of Our Lady, and I'm just embracing it and loving it. And I'm just taking every day, one day at a time.
You will see, because they say here, when you come here, Our Lady takes over and she guides you where you.
That's
like how did we meet now? Poor coincidence.
Exactly,
No?
exactly. So you know, I go on YouTube and I'm seeing this guy called Tom interviewing people. I'm like, oh, you know, I had no clue you were anywhere near the hotel. So that's interesting.
Pure God incidents.
Pure
no?
incident. I've been to the Apparition Hill.
How was that experience?
That was beautiful. I was in awe. I was like, the first thing I thought of was I never realized how steep and how rocky that terrain was. And I was like, whoa, you know, it's totally amazing that those children, those missionaries were up that hill years back. I'm planning to do Cross Mountain today. It's a bit cold, so I might delay that till tomorrow. We'll see how we go. But I'm exploring and I'm open.
Wonderful.
I think the beauty about this place is come with openness, right?
Openness of the heart.
Of
no?
the heart, yes, yes.
And how would you describe, you converted, what were you before? Protestant?
It's funny, you know, I came from a family that my mother doesn't believe. My father is a Christian but never practiced. He was Methodist. And so I didn't have any religious background, nothing. But there was always a yearning for God. And I explored all sorts of other religions in the past, but this is where the Lord wants me to be. The Catholic Church is where I am. I will never ever.
Can you explain the beauty of it, of your Catholic faith?
Well, one of the things about the Catholic faith is it's universal. So here it is. I go to a church here and I immediately fit in because everything is the same. The way we do the Mass is the same worldwide. Be you in Africa, in Europe, in Bosnia and Croatia, same thing. So I love the universality of the church. You know, even when I became Catholic, and I married before I became Catholic. I told my husband we have to go back and marry again.
Wow, you did that?
Yes, I said we have to
Amazing.
marry in the Catholic Church.
Yeah. How did he react?
Whoa, he was okay with it. We went back. You have to. Otherwise, that is not a marriage, right?
Yes.
And so I had to go through baptism and confirmation as an adult. So for me, there's a lot of peace in the Catholic faith. You know, there's a lot of history. both historical and oral.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a very personal thing. People will listen to us and think we're over the top, but
No, not at all. I don't think so.
okay, but
Not
this is
at
very
all.
personal,
Yeah.
and the beauty of the faith is when you open up your heart and you pray, everything comes.
Mm-hmm.
It comes.
I see you have a personal relationship with God, with Christ, no?
I like to think so.
How would you describe it?
I think that the relationship with Christ is one that comes with peace and love.
Mm-hmm.
If anything jars you
Mhm.
or causes anxiety or makes you worried or unsettled, it's not of the Lord. Okay?
Beautiful.
Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Simple spiritual mathematics.
simple, yeah. I think that one of the things about Medjugorje that I noticed was Our Lady has been telling us for years
Mm-hmm.
what she's telling us in Medjugorje. Confession, adoration,
Mm-hmm.
Bible, Mass, fasting.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this, but why I didn't fast, I don't know. Wednesday and Friday, fast on bread and water. I knew this all along, but it only
Yeah.
came into my mind to do this while I was here. The fasting. So I know that when I live in Medjugorje,
Uh-huh.
I will always fast Wednesday and Friday now. Even though we've known these messages, we've read them,
Yes.
but somehow they're in the background. But now I understand the importance of fasting Wednesday and Friday on bread and water.
That was by revelation walking here, or how did you?
I always knew about it.
Yeah.
But when I went to the Mass, there's a book
Mhm.
that says the pillars of Our Lady of the Catholic Church in Medjugorje, and I was like, wow, fasting Wednesday and Friday. I said I always knew about this, but somehow it just my antennas was just raised, like you need to do this. So somehow there was a understanding that moving forward you have to do this. You knew about it, but you never did it, right? Now you have to. So Medjugorje has enlightened me and brought that into the forefront of my life.
Unbelievable, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And what would you tell people? What is the beauty about confession? Why is it so central in our faith?
I think that confession is a way to let it all out, right? None of us are perfect. We will all err. We will all make mistakes. But go out to the Lord, confess your sins, and wash everything away. Let the Lord take it from you. That cleansing is so empowering, it's so enriching, right? So confession is just healing, cleansing.
Beautiful. And what would you tell people? Maybe somebody says, wow, long time, I'm Catholic, I could go to confession, but he's scared or she's scared about what she did. To tell the priest, what would you recommend them? Or what would tell?
One of the things, and I actually understand that, because I never used to go to confession regularly. I'd go once a year before, but now I go often. Just go and let the priest know before you even start. Tell the priest, look, Father, I haven't been to confession in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Please help me. Make this an easy, help me through this confession. And I tell you, these priests, they will help you. Even the act of contrition, sometimes I get so nervous, I wouldn't even be able to say it. And I said, Father, help me. I've forgotten how to say it.
Exactly, my experience
your
too.
experience too, right? And the Father will say, okay, say after me.
Yes.
And he will say it together. So one shouldn't be scared or worried or afraid of confession.
Beautiful. You pray the Rosary?
Oh, yes.
Why? Seems so natural for you.
It's not natural.
Convinced? You're convinced? You say, oh, yes?
Yeah, it's not. We human beings always find an excuse.
Exactly.
What I found about myself was when I sat down to pray the Rosary, my mind was always wandering. So I realized that when I take my Rosary and I go for a walk, that is when I do my Rosary the best. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
yes.
now, When I'm going to the Cross Mountain
Uh-huh.
or I'm going to Mass, I'm doing my rosary. It's like I'm one of those people that I cannot sit still and do my rosary unless I'm in the church and I'm doing it with other people. I've realized that my personality, I don't know, maybe I just can't keep still. So I walk and do my rosary and I meditate and I'm just going and I'm going and going. So you have to find the best way to pray that works for you.
Yeah.
Right?
I prayed with like YouTube in Lourdes or
You do that as well.
yes,
You
and
see?
they're more concentrated like that.
Yeah, you see and that's what some people do as well.
And what does it bring, the rosary? Does it have an effect on you praying it?
I think the most powerful rosary for me is the sorrowful mysteries. When you follow Christ through the Garden of Gethsemane, you go through the scourging, then you have the crown of thorns placed on that head with the blood bleeding. Then you have him carrying the cross and going, then you walk him through Calvary to the crucifixion. That whole story of Christ, that sacrifice, that pain, that torture, when you say that rosary and you think of what Christ went through, it is very pulling. You all, and what I say to people is when you do the rosary, imagine yourself there as an observer, right? And that sort of brings the picture to life.
That's totally scriptural for our Protestant friends.
Yeah,
totally scriptural.
Totally scripture. And so to relive that just reminds you of the sacrifice Christ gave for us to be where we are today. So the rosary is very powerful for me.
And Holy Communion, what would you tell? You know, all other, basically they don't say that it's the real body and flesh and blood of Christ. What would you tell people? What is the beauty about Holy Communion?
You know, for us Catholics, the communion is the body of Christ. It is the summit of it all for us. It's a very deeply spiritual experience, which a lot of us Catholics actually take for granted.
Yes.
But as you grow in your faith, and if you have a chance to come to Medjugorje, you will know that you are truly blessed to be alive and to taste Christ, to have a part of him on earth. So the Eucharist to me is a bit of heaven on earth. And I think it affects everyone differently. You know, that's my experience.
Wow,
Tom.
beautiful.
I'm getting too deep now.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's
Thank
inspiring.
you.
Look, I'm listening. And just coming back, you said you were not married in the Catholic Church. You got married. And what was the effect of being married? Did something change when you got married? For young people, you know, it's out of date to get married in the Catholic Church. It's a protection. Or how would you describe the sacrament, we call it, no?
So in the Catholic faith, I read, because I had married, I got married, and then I realized, I have a child, he has to go to school. I converted to Catholicism, I became a Catholic. And then I started reading, and I was realizing that, oh wow, my marriage is not recognized. Until you marry in the Catholic Church, your marriage is not recognized as a Catholic. The effect of that is, the importance of that is knowing that your marriage is consecrated, right?
Yeah, to God.
To God.
Yeah.
And the effect of that is knowing that you are in a marriage that is proper, that is fulfilling to the church. And that is the only way I can grow my marriage, right? To do it properly. So for me, there was no choice.
Wow, beautiful.
There was no choice.
And did your husband change on the way? I mean, you got more deep in the faith. How did he change?
So this is interesting. My husband is a cradle Catholic.
Yeah.
And he's not as, he calls me hot.
Yeah.
He says I'm hot, I'm a convert. He's had it all his life. So he's a more calmer Catholic.
Yeah. You're on fire.
I'm on fire. And he just looks at me. I'm coming to Medjugorje. I said, will you come with me? He said, no.
Yeah.
But it's okay. One praying partner is fine. we're together, and we'll survive this together. You know, again, I'm hot. I'm a hot Catholic. He's the cooler
On
one.
fire, yeah, I
Yes.
see it.
You
Yeah,
know,
a lot of depth,
I
yeah.
am. So,
Beautiful, beautiful. And maybe also, you know, there are a lot of people here in Medjugorje, they think, how do I find my vocation? How do I find the right partner? What would you tell them out of your life experience?
again, it's all very personal. The Lord comes to us, and the Holy Spirit comes to us in various ways. Everybody's experience is different. For me, I would just say keep praying and have an open heart, right? And don't block anything and anybody out, because you never know who's going to bless you. You never know where your graces are going to come from. Never look down on anyone. Just have an open heart, right? And wish everyone well. And the graces of the Lord and their direction in life will eventually come. It will come.
They will come. Beautiful. And the last one is like you know, everybody's looking for happiness in life, deep joy, peace. How do they find it? You found it in the Catholic faith?
So that is very good. So one of the things that in life people get, you know, I have a friend who I love very dearly. Her name is Adeswa. She's also Catholic. And we talk a lot about our Catholic faith. And over the years, we've realized that it's the simple things of life that make you happy. You see the designer clothes, the vacations, the living life just to please people, make people happy. It's all temporal. It's not. I'm telling you, the simple things of life, being able to have good health, get up in the morning, go for a walk, speak to your friends, just enjoy the beauty of simple life. I think in life we just complicate things too much. We're always trying to please people. We're always trying to outdo other people, always trying to get the best cars, the best house, the best jewelry. That is so irrelevant. The simple things. And as I'm getting older, the simple things are what makes me happy.
Same as me.
Same as you.
It's unbelievable, so beautiful
You know,
to listen to. Yeah.
You know, because people say, oh, there's money here. You can do this. You can get. So, I don't want more. That's not it. Money doesn't give you happiness. There are people with money. They're in bed. They can't even move. Find Christ. Find love. Find peace. Find spirituality. Find the church. Find yourself. Peace, love. That's all. How much food can you eat, Tom? How many vacations can you go on? How much jewelry can you wear? How much diamonds can you have? We keep it simple. And I think that's what happens on, you know, the world is people are so worldly. They get so distracted, right? So we need to center our lives on the Lord, on peace, on on love, on Christ, on Our Lady.
And what would you tell at the end people like, maybe why should they come to Medjugorje? So far, what would you tell them?
Okay, so that's a very good one, Tom. Why come to Medjugorje? I've been trying to come here for over 30 years, and I finally came here because I had this deep sense that you need to go to Medjugorje. And I've been saying it for years to my friends, and then suddenly I come. What happened in Medjugorje to me, and I've only been here since Friday, today's Monday, is this heightened spiritual feeling. Suddenly I'm feeling the Holy Spirit. I'm feeling this sense of peace that I've never felt before. I feel whole. It's very difficult to explain. And every time I'm in Mass, I'm crying. There's like spiritual healing going on. I'm feeling complete. I'm feeling that everything I've learned in the scriptures, everything I've learned over these years, have suddenly come together. And I now understand the picture. And I'm still learning. I don't know it all. Not at all.
We are all on the way.
I'm still learning. I still have 6 more days here, and I intend to do much more. But I want to thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure. That was so beautiful, this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much.